Hello and welcome to my retro watches, and yes, it's another watch review on this channel. I am keeping them to a minimum, but I really think you're going to enjoy this one because just look at what we've got in front of us. This is a watch from a company called Baltany. It's extremely vintage inspired. It actually gets its inspiration or its homage in Rolex Oyster, the very first Oyster they did in 1926. Now Baltany have sent me this version and also a quartz version with a completely different dial arrangement. The quartz version is going out at the same time as this one. The quartz one is on my review channel. This one, because it's an automatic, I figured we'd feature it on this channel. So if you want to see both, then there will be a link below and you can go and see the variations for yourself. Now at this point, I've got to be honest, I absolutely love the look of this watch, and I'm supposed to be impartial in a review, but it's going to be very difficult for me because there's so much I like about this watch. There are a few little grumbles and gripes which we will get to, but stick around. I think you're going to enjoy this one. So let's get into it and start with that beautiful looking dial. As always, I'm filming outside. I think daylight hides no prisoners. On this watch, it's got a slightly domed crystal, so as a result, we are getting some reflection from the camera and so on and so forth. Just look at that dial. Doesn't it scream vintage to you? I think they've hit every design marker possible, and with this watch, you get that aesthetic of a vintage, but with a modern, reliable movement packed inside it, because all too often people are scared of vintage watches unless they can service them, like myself. That is a cost, so you've got to pay for servicing. They may be unreliable, and they're certainly probably not going to be water resistant. So when a company like Baltany takes a design that's almost 100 years ago, brings it into the modern world that we're in now, you can buy this and have that aesthetic without the worry and the cost of running it. I think it's fantastic, and these sort of watches I certainly don't mind being homaged. So when we look at the dial, we look at the numbers, and the numbers almost look three-dimensional, and they're just printed on. It's printed lume, that faux patina lume, but it's kind of the right colour, I think, because some of the other ones I've seen have been a bit too sort of nicotine yellowy, whereas this I think is a lighter shade and a lot nicer. And what you've got there, I think, is it's painted white to start with, and then the numbers are overlaid at slightly off center, and that gives it that three-dimensional look. But I think that's fantastic. You've got a railroad type of minute track running around the outer edge of the dial with sort of diamond shapes as well at the 12, 3, 6 and 9. And then there's the sub-dial at 6 showing the seconds. A vintage watch is not a vintage watch, I think, without a sub-second dial. And just look at the way they've done it here. You've got those centric circles, which again, very typical of vintage watches. I like the way they've segmented the seconds into 10 seconds increments, and then you've got a seconds track which sort of mirrors the minute track on the dial as well. So a nice design cue. I'm guessing really that's all courtesy of the original Rolex, but it's still nice to look at in this day and age. There's a nice set of matching cathedral hands, very appropriate again to give you that vintage vibe. Turn our attention now to that coin edge bezel. Isn't that quite something? I've never been too drawn on the two-tone watches, but I think it really does suit it on here. Now, I asked Baltany about the gold bezel and crown on this one. Was it real gold? Was it plated onto a different material? And they said no, it's IP plating. And IP plating, you can put a coating on that's very, very thin, probably about 1 to 2 microns, but it's much more durable than electroplating. So in theory, this one isn't going to fade as quick, which should always be a concern when you see gold hardware, if you like, on a case like this. So hopefully it'll stand the test of time. But it is certainly one of the best parts about this watch. It adds to the aesthetic and the drama of it, and I think without it, it wouldn't look as good. Now looking at it, the case is stainless steel, and as you can see, it's highly polished all over. Now the slight difference with this one is you've got proper lugs. The lug width is actually 18mm, by the way. So on a traditional one of this era, you'd have the metal hoops, if you like, rather than proper steel lugs. So they have modernized it, I guess, really for strap changes, because this watch could suit just about any strap, and certainly a mesh bracelet. And the good news is they've kept the sizing vintage. Maybe it's the bad news for some of you guys out there like the bigger watch. This watch measures 36mm in diameter. Now 36mm for a watch of this design or this era is probably still quite big, because I'd imagine it would have been about 32, 33 perhaps with the original. But trust me, this wears bigger on the wrist. We'll see a wrist shot in just a moment. But guys, if you're into the big watches, you should convert and have some smaller ones like this. Change is as good as the rest, but equally you will appreciate them the more you wear them. This one is also only 11.1mm thick. Now because it has that Oyster style case, has an interesting case back, it sits a lot thinner on the wrist. This will be a great dress watch. It's very, very light, extremely comfortable, and that big onion crown suits it really well. Also aids in ease of winding when you need to. Now the crown is screw down along with the back, because this watch is offering 100 meters of water resistance. Not that I'd want to take a watch that looks like this anywhere near water. Just to close off on this shot, you can see there the domed sapphire crystal. I believe it has a little bit of AR coating also. Flipping the watch over though, this shows its weak spot. It's got a high polished case back, which is an absolute scratch magnet. Now in my view, that should be linear brushing on that case back. I do however love the fact that you've got the coin edge to the case back that matches the bezel, but equally, how do you take the case back off? There's only one way to do it, and that is with a sticky case back ball, because it's anything that's got friction enough to lift that off. Here it is on my 7-inch or 18cm right arm. To you it's the wrong arm, of course, and yeah, 36mm, it wears bigger, and I'm guessing that's because it's a squarer case. Right, so before we go to the bench, let's do a quick lume shot. And with a quick blast of the UV pen, you get this delightful display of pure green to delight your eyes. However, it fades very quickly. Now, when they're applied to the dial or just printed to the dial like this, there isn't a lot of lume there to last. But this I found was quite disappointing, and by 10 minutes the camera couldn't even pick it up. You could see it with the naked eye, and I dare say it would stay there a bit longer, but it isn't the brightest lume in the world. I've had to get the microscope out for this one. This is a Seagull 1701 movement. Can't find much about this caliber online, but it's got about a 40-hour power reserve. I'm not sure of the joule count either, to be honest with you, because it doesn't say anywhere. It's certainly been made to a budget. There's some staining here on the rotor, which I thought were a fingerprint, but I think it's just within the metal. But it's highly decorated all the same, as Seagulls tend to be. It's a Chinese made movement, so I don't know about the reliability, but let's face it, Seagull have been around for a long time, and I think they make more movements than anybody else. And here you can see the Seiko-ish type of pull lever or magic fingers to wind that rotor. So I haven't seen that on too many movements, and I love seeing it here. So maybe in the future I need to take that apart and have a much closer look at that mechanism. So while we're on the scope, we might as well look at the dial, and there is that sub dial at 6, and you can clearly see the centric circles, and the rest we're just looking at the printing now. It makes more sense to show you that three-dimensional look that you get on the dial. And now we're looking straight through the crystal as well, so here just demonstrating there's not fluff or anything on the dial particularly, it is all on the crystal. and then I make it worse by wiping it with my finger, but there you go, you kind of get the idea. This watch is made to a budget, so let's have a look at it on the Timegrapher before I announce the cost. Here we go then, the moment of truth. Obviously we are dial up and speeded up as well, and it's running 15 seconds a day fast, and there is a slight extra trace there you can see, so there's a bit of reverberation I think going on in the movement perhaps. Here we are, dial down, replicating the same trace, which is good to see. I think it's running a little bit too fast for my liking. I think I should tweak that ever so slightly. So really, let's put it in its stress points. So crown up and crown up. It's utter devastation by lots of things. We've got a beat error that's jumped massively. Rate is still stayed the same. So if we turn that and put pendant or crown down, it closes back up again. So that's a bit of a mystery. Don't know why it does that, but in the main it seems to be running well enough for what it is. So that brings me on to the moment of truth, the moment you've all been waiting for, the price. What would you pay for a watch that has all of this aesthetic? I've been hinting all the way along that this has been made to a budget because I think it's quite affordable. This watch is only $169 US, which is around about £140. And to be honest, now I've handled and worn this watch, I'd pay that all day long for this look. Yes, you can see that they've used that movement probably to cut costs, but equally because the movement no doubt is a lot thinner, plus it has the sub-second, which is what they would have needed. So there are aspects where you can see they've cut the costs, but to offer a watch like this for £140, I think is great value for what it is. And once it's all faded, if that gold fades and you batter it, well, you can just go out and buy another one. Quickly while I'm here, you can see there's also a white dial available should you not like the black one. There are plenty of options on this. Like I said, there's a review on my other channel which will show you the quartz version, which is a different dial with Roman numerals. They've also got a mother of pearl version of this with a different movement in again. So there's pretty much something for everybody if you're going to like this aesthetic. So there you go, that's my take on this watch. I'd love to hear what you guys think of it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think that this type of homage has a place in the market? Leave your comments below. Of course, I read everyone. I try to reply to as many as I possibly can, and I will be very interested to hear what you've got to say about this watch, because me personally, I absolutely love it. I've said it all the way through the video. Has got a few shortcomings. Being polished the way it is, it's going to be a scratch magnet. Certainly that case back will last no time at all. In just this review, that case back has got terribly scratched, but maybe I should do a second video in a few months time where I get rid of those scratches and put some linear brushing on instead. So if you've liked this video, then please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the algorithm. If you're new to the channel and you've enjoyed this as well, then please consider subscribing. If you want to go over to the other channel and look at the quartz version with the Roman numeral dials, trust me, it's a completely different looking watch to this one, but equally as beautiful. Then there will be a link down below and at the end of this video that you can click on. And while you're there, I need all of your support on my second channel, please. So if you like what I'm doing here, I'm never going to ask you for anything else. Just go over there, subscribe, watch a few videos. It would really help me. I always want to keep YouTube free. I'm not down with trying to make these memberships or even Patreons. I kind of see that as a bit of begging. I don't need your money. I just want you to view the videos and enjoy the content that I'm making. There will be a new video out very soon on an Omega. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss that one. It's been taking me ages and ages to film, but it will be out very soon. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye for now.